Welcome to Life in the 1800s newspapers, where we read the actual words from vintage newspapers. So let's experience one day from the past. We will be reading the York Weekly from York, Pennsylvania, dated Friday, June 5th, 1891. My videos, I like to read the more interesting stories and leave the politics out of it. So let's read some of the articles that pertain to America in the 1800s. A victim of circumstances from the Indianapolis Journal. I might have been rich and set, said the man with the straw-colored whiskers, but circumstances were too much for me. Tell us about it. Well, you see, it was just this way. I was working on a farm down here on the Wabash when I meets a widder at a hoedown with a quarter section of about as good a land as you can find outdoors. Well, she sorta cottoned up to me right on the jump. Went to see her 3 or 4 times and was getting thicker in winter molasses when I tuck the chills and fevers. Ever have 'em? Shake all the life of you. One day, next day, you can eat like a hog. Well, I goes to see the widder on my well day, and lo and behold, she had the chills. Next day I had 'em. Next day she had 'em. Next day Well, the upshot of the whole business was that 'fore I could get rid of them shakes, a tramp preacher came along that was in the habit of having the shakes simultaneously with the widder, as it were, and cut me clean out. I tell you, boys, when old Billy's circumstances has it up for a man, he can just as well give it up. I think it's kind of funny that people in the 1800s loved to tell wife jokes. A masher mashed. I want some nice little thing for my wife, something that'll please her, sighed Masham. Perhaps you could suggest something. Yes, said the saleslady. I think a telegram saying that a house had fallen on you ought to please her. A greater than the other, a visitor to a museum exhibit. Are you the man who eats glass? Exhibitor. No, I'm the man who eats the biscuits that my wife bakes. Look at this eye-opening advertisement. Look here. Perhaps people don't look so pretty when some astonishing fact or occurrence causes their eyes to stick out, but in certain instances it is worthwhile to sacrifice good looks for a few minutes. We ask you to cast your eyes in the direction of our new stock for a brief period. We shall show you some goods and prices calculated to start the eyes out of anyone's head. We can and do offer astonishing good bargains this season with all our lines. The Shoeman, Lee Reinberg, 3 and 5 South George Street. Where a fat man may reduce his weight. On Jupiter, which is a much larger and heavier body than the Earth, a man would weigh about 484, whose weight on Earth would be about 200 pounds. This man would weigh 218 on Saturn. Coming to the smaller bodies, we find that he would weigh less on them. His 200 pounds would shrink to 184 on Venus, and 92 on Mercury, and 60 on Mars, and 30 on the Moon. While on the asteroids or telescopic planets revolving between Mars and Jupiter, his weight would be from 2 to 4 pounds only. The matter depends on the mass and attractive force of the planet. Five at a time. Mrs. Hannah Dober, the mother of 5 little Dobers, has invented the most unique toilet apparatus on record, says the Tacoma News. It is a machine that bathes, rinses, drips, and dries the entire Dober brood simultaneously by the simple turning of a crank. The Dobers live on the waterfront near the old salmon cannery back of town. Like many of the houses in that vicinity, the home of the Dobers is built on piles. With the assistance of her husband, the enterprising but overworked woman cut a hole in the flooring of the back porch, about 4 feet square, and then built a windlass like those in an old-fashioned well curbs. Then she got a quantity of stout wire gauze and screens and made a great big basket that would easily slip through the hole in the floor. Bright and early every morning, the 5 little Dobers are hustled out of bed and into the basket. Next, she throws in a handful of wafered soap and then lowers them into the cold, clear water, rocking them back and forth. This movement and the commotion made by the basket by the children produces a lather from the soap and cleanses the kids in a manner equal, if not superior, to the regulation hand bath. Unrest in Paradise. 2 women met in paradise, where they had recently arrived, and each one of the other asked how in the bright abode she thrived. Then straightway each one made reply, "'Tis very beautiful and bright. There's everything to please the ear, and everything to feast the sight." Then each exhaled a long deep sigh, and said, "I've searched in every nook, but nowhere can I find a glass to see how these new garments look."